Most people think their financial problem is a lack of knowledge. It isn't. They know what to do. Spend less. Be consistent. Delay gratification. Avoid impulse. The problem isn't information, it's discipline. More specifically, the gap between knowing and repeating. That gap decides everything. Discipline isn't dramatic, it isn't intense, and it definitely isn't motivating. Discipline is boring, predictable, uncomfortable in small ways. That's why most people avoid it. They wait to feel ready. They wait to feel confident. They wait to feel motivated. But compounding doesn't wait for feelings. The discipline gap shows up quietly. It's not the big decisions that ruin progress. It's the small lapses people justify. Skipping routines, spending for relief, breaking structure just this once. Each decision feels harmless, but compounding doesn't respond to intention. It responds to repetition. This is where most people misunderstand discipline. They think discipline means force, pushing harder, trying longer, being strict all day. That's not discipline. That's exhaustion. Real discipline is selective. It shows up at the same moments, in the same situations, over and over again, not everywhere, just where it matters. The discipline gap exists because most people overestimate intensity and underestimate consistency. They do well for a week, then loosen standards, then reset. Progress doesn't collapse all at once. It erodes quietly. One missed routine becomes two. Two becomes normal. And suddenly, the system disappears. This is why motivation fails. Motivation depends on emotion. Discipline depends on identity. If you see discipline as something you do, you'll only do it when it feels good. If you see discipline as who you are, you repeat it regardless of mood. Identity compounds faster than effort. Most people don't fail because they stop completely. They fail because they become inconsistent. And inconsistency is expensive. It resets momentum. It breaks trust with yourself. It turns progress into effort again. Compounding only works when friction is removed and repetition stays intact. The people who close the discipline gap don't rely on willpower. They rely on structure. They design environments that make discipline easier. They reduce decisions. They remove temptation. They plan ahead. Not because they're stronger, but because they understand something important. Discipline isn't about control. It's about design. This is where most people get uncomfortable. Because closing the discipline gap requires admitting something. That freedom isn't exciting at first. That structure feels restrictive before it feels liberating. That boredom is often a sign you're doing it right. And most people would rather feel busy than feel bored. But boredom is where compounding lives. Boring routines repeated calmly outperform emotional effort every time. Not immediately, but inevitably. The discipline gap doesn't close overnight. It closes when standards stop changing, when routines stay the same, even when progress feels slow, when decisions become automatic instead of emotional. That's when discipline stops feeling heavy and starts feeling invisible. And invisible discipline is powerful because it doesn't require energy. It doesn't demand motivation. It doesn't ask for confidence. It just repeats. This is what separates people who struggle forever from people who progress quietly. Not intelligence, not opportunity, not effort. Consistency of behavior when no one is watching. The discipline gap decides your financial future because money responds to patterns, not promises. What you repeat becomes predictable. What's predictable becomes stable. And stability is where compounding begins. If this made you uncomfortable, that's a good sign. Because awareness is the first step. But repetition is the real work. If you want a simple framework for closing the discipline gap without relying on motivation, check the link in the description. No hype, just systems.